Today we're here to talk about a movie that scared the living daylights out of the nation, the Blair Witch Project. I know many will disagree, but in my opinion, this movie is in the top 10 of horror movies because it changed how people did horror. Back in the late 90s, these two guys, Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, had this crazy idea. They wanted to make a horror movie that felt real, like really, really real. And boy, did they succeed. They dreamed up this legend of the Blair Witch, this creepy, vengeful spirit haunting the woods. And they decided to film it like a documentary, shaky cameras and all. Little did they know, they were about to unleash a horror phenomenon. Now, before the Blair Witch Project, found footage wasn't really a thing in horror. Sure, there was Cannibal Holocaust. Don't watch it, trust me. But this was different. This was like watching someone's home videos turn into a nightmare. The shaky camera, the grainy footage, the panicked voices, it all felt so real. It was like we were watching something we weren't supposed to see. And that's what made it so scary. We were no longer just watching a movie. We were part of the experience, a genre-defining moment in horror history. One of the things that made the Blair Witch Project so effective was the casting. Forget your big-name Hollywood stars, Myrick and Sanchez wanted unknowns. They wanted actors who could blend into the fabric of the film, who could make us believe they were just regular people caught in a terrifying situation. They found their Heather, Josh and Mike and Joshua Leonard, Michael C. Williams, and Heather Donahue. They weren't just actors, they were practically playing versions of themselves. Now let's talk about the marketing campaign for the Blair Witch Project, because these guys wrote the book on how to freak people out. They created an elaborate online mythology, complete with fake news reports and police interviews, even missing person flyers. They wanted people to believe the legend was real, and it worked.
This was back in the early days of the internet. Building this kind of buzz online, genius. By the time the movie came out, everyone was ready to be scared out of their wits.
Now, let's talk money. The Blair Witch Project was made on a shoestring budget. We're talking less than $100 grand. To put that into perspective, that's like the catering budget for one of the Stranger Things episodes. But guess what? This little indie film, shot on handheld cameras with unknown actors, became a monster hit. We're talking over $248 million worldwide. That's insane. The Blair Witch Project proved that you don't need explosions, CGI monsters, or big-name stars to scare the pants off audiences. You wouldn't believe the reactions to the Blair Witch Project. So many were convinced it was real. Full-on panic attacks in the theater. People were throwing up, fainting, running out screaming. The movie was effective. Very effective. A really, really scary movie. It can make you believe anything. The Blair Witch Project didn't just scare audiences, it shook up the horror genre. It proved you didn't need a big budget to make a terrifying film. All you needed was a good story and atmosphere. Suddenly, everyone was replicating the found footage formula. Paranormal Activity and Cloverfield all owe a debt to the Blair Witch Project. Now, I'm not gonna lie, some of the found footage films that came after the Blair Witch Project were, well, let's just say they weren't exactly masterpieces. For every Paranormal Activity, there were a dozen cheap knockoffs that missed the mark. But hey, you gotta break a few eggs to make an omelet, right? The important thing is that the Blair Witch Project started a conversation. It pushed the boundaries of what horror could be. It inspired a new generation of filmmakers to experiment with different techniques and approaches. Let's be real. The Blair Witch Project wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural phenomenon. I'm talking parodies on Saturday Night Live, references in sitcoms, even Halloween costumes. Remember those stick figures? Yeah, those creepy little things became synonymous with the film, popping up everywhere. The movie tapped into something primal, something that resonated with audiences on a deep level. It reminded us that the scariest monsters are often the ones we can't see, the ones that lurk in the shadows of our imaginations. One of the things that made the Blair Witch Project so effective was the mythology surrounding the film. The filmmakers created this elaborate backstory for the Blair Witch, complete with historical accounts, local legends, and even a fake documentary. And people ate it up. Even today, years after the film's release, people are still debating the authenticity of the footage, speculating about the true nature of the Blair Witch, and sharing their own creepy encounters in the woods. It's a testament to the power of the film's storytelling that it continues to spark our imaginations and keep us up at night. Okay, so full disclosure, the sequels and the reboot of the Blair Witch Project, not so great. They tried to recapture the magic of the original, but it's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. The first film was a perfect storm of creativity, innovation, and good old-fashioned scares. But hey, I get it. When you have a hit as big as the Blair Witch Project, Hollywood's gonna come knocking, wanting more. But sometimes it's best to leave well enough alone. When the Blair Witch Project first premiered at Sundance Film Festival, critics were divided. Some were blown away by the film's originality and effectiveness, while others were left cold, dismissing it as nothing more than a gimmick. But then, something amazing happened. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. Audiences embraced the film's raw, visceral terror, and soon, critics started to come around. One of the things that makes the Blair Witch Project so effective is its use of psychological horror. The film doesn't rely on jump scares or gore to frighten its audience. Instead, it preys on our deepest fears. The fear of the unknown, the fear of being watched, the fear of being lost and alone in the dark. By the time the characters realize the true extent of their predicament, we're right there with them, our hearts pounding in our chests, our minds racing with possibilities. The filmmakers did such a good job of blurring the lines between fact and fiction that it's hard not to feel a shiver down your spine when you're out in the woods alone at night. The film draws inspiration from real-life legends and folklore, tapping into our primal fear of the unknown. And let's be honest, there's something inherently creepy about the woods at night, with the wind rustling through the trees and the shadows playing tricks on your eyes. The Blair Witch Project's found footage style wasn't just a gimmick. It was a deliberate stylistic choice that heightened the film's realism. The shaky camera work, the grainy footage, the naturalistic dialogue, it all contributed to the illusion that we were watching real events unfold. The filmmakers used innovative techniques to achieve this level of authenticity, giving the actors handheld cameras and encouraging them to improvise their dialogue. The result was a film that felt raw, immediate, and utterly terrifying. The Blair Witch Project wasn't just a horror film. It was a cultural phenomenon that proved that independent films could compete with Hollywood blockbusters. Made on a shoestring budget with unknown actors, the film became a global sensation, inspiring a new generation of filmmakers. The film's success demonstrated the power of word-of-mouth marketing and the importance of taking risks. It showed that audiences were hungry for something different, something original, something that challenged the conventions of traditional filmmaking. The Blair Witch Project's marketing campaign was groundbreaking, utilizing the then nascent internet to create an immersive and interactive experience for audiences. The filmmakers created a website, spread rumors on message boards, and even planted fake news stories to blur the lines between fact and fiction. This innovative approach to marketing generated unprecedented buzz for the film, turning it into a cultural phenomenon before it even hit theaters. The movie introduced audiences to a new kind of horror, one that relied on psychological thrills and realistic scares rather than gore and jump scares. The film's found footage style, its relatable characters, and its slow burn approach to suspense created an immersive and unforgettable experience. The film's legacy continues to this day, inspiring countless other found footage horror films and reminding us that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we can't see. Over 2 decades later, the movie remains a landmark achievement in horror cinema. Its influence can be felt in countless other films, and its scares still resonate with audiences today. But what is it about this low-budget, found-footage film that continues to captivate and terrify us? Perhaps it's the film's realism, its ability to blur the lines between fact and fiction. Or maybe it's the film's slow-burn approach to suspense, its willingness to let the tension build gradually until it becomes unbearable. And yeah, I know many of you are going to say this movie wasn't scary to me. This movie blah blah blah, but for many of us it was. The Blair Witch Project, a micro-budget masterpiece that redefined horror and scared audiences worldwide, no matter what you think of it. It's a testament to innovative filmmaking, clever marketing, and storytelling. More than just a movie, it's a cultural phenomenon haunting our nightmares. The scariest monsters are often the ones we can't see. So next time you're in the woods, keep your eyes peeled and don't wander off alone. If you found value in this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to this channel.